Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Flash. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, that beginning was great. Just that raw emotion, just the back and forth between Iris and Barry, like that literally led me feel conflicted because like Barry and Iris have disagreed. They've had the moments, but that was like the most raw, it's like pure emotional moment I feel like they've had in a while. And it was just like, holy shit, like Barry getting super pissed because it's like, because obviously, because for one, the situation didn't go the way I thought it would. Like, I knew Iris would be pissed about what Barry did, but I thought everyone else on the team might side with Barry. I mean, at least there'd be some division. It's like, no, it seems like everyone kind of sides with Iris. Some people didn't really state their stance in the whole situation, just kind of like, oh, you did that? So you can tell they didn't really agree 100% with what he did, but it's not like they really chose sides in the situation. But man, the back and forth between Barry and Iris, like Iris is pissed because like, for one, it's like you're doing this all the time. You make so many decisions by yourself. Flashpoint. The fact is, going into the Speed Force, like you made those choices, even taking Nora back home. The fact of the matter is, he's like, but the fact, did you even realize how hard it was for me? Like saying goodbye to her, like this might be the last time I ever see her. It's like, well, at least you got to say goodbye. You took that chance from me. I didn't even get to say goodbye to her because for her, it's like, yes, she messed up and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is, that's still our daughter. Like, you know, you don't do that. Like, she explained her situation about the whole Eobard situation, why she turned to, and it's like, and Barry's like, well, that's the whole point. She literally turned to Eobard, the one person she shouldn't turn to, and she lied to us about it for months. And dude, and it's like, Barry's like, doesn't that bother you? He's like, wait, it doesn't. She's like, no, it doesn't. He's like, well, maybe you'd feel differently if he killed your mom in front of you. I was like, whoa. That, like some shit was said in that conversation. I was like, holy crap. Because you can see both sides of the argument. You can understand why Barry's acting the way he is. You can understand why Iris is acting the way she is. There's legitimacy in both what they're saying. Because in Iris's mind, it's like, you're being too emotional about it. But then Barry's like, the fact of the matter is, you claim that I'm being emotional about this situation because Eobard's involved. What about you? You're not thinking about this logically. You're looking at it from an emotional standpoint because it's our daughter, because it's Nora. She went from hating you to now caring about you, so now things are kind of different between you. Because the fact is, he's like, if it was anyone else, you would have my back on this situation, but because it's Nora, you're very emotionally invested in the situation, so you're not thinking clearly either. And it's just, dude, and it's kind of sad just to see them kind of like that. But like I said, that was just a good drama moment of like, holy shit, I just kept going woof every time, just because it's like the stuff that was being said. Like, could you understand why Barry is so pissed? Because it's like literally anyone but the dude who murdered my mom and basically ruined my life. You know, it's hard. You know, it's like that hatred that Eobard has for him, Barry shares it, you know, vice versa. Like, Barry hates Eobard, you know? So that was that, and obviously it led to some division. Obviously, like, you know, Iris is trying to deal with it her own way, so she working with Ralph, which I even love Ralph being like, why am I still, so I found out about this room, the room where Gideon is, all the future stuff. And it's like, why am I just finding out about this room? How much other stuff are you guys not telling me about? But to be fair, it seems like they've told Ralph stuff in the past, and he's like, you didn't ever tell me about that. They're like, we super did, Ralph. You just might not have been listening or you forgot. But nevertheless, they go to the future, which is interesting. That played out very interesting to the point. For one, it seems like Eobard is teaching Nora how to time travel without getting noticed, which is so interesting because, like, I never really thought about that before, about the fact that, like, oh, you can sense someone time traveling. And it's like, I'm sure that has come up in the past before. I mean, that's how Jay was able to track Barry, because Barry was doing that, because he could sense him running through the Speed Force to time travel. So it just never clicked in my head of like, all right, you can outright sense people time traveling. But it's like, yeah, Eobard was able to hide himself from Barry as well as any other speedster, so no one would know that he's time traveling. It's like, how did he do it? because he doesn't use the Speed Force to time travel. He created his own Speed Force. So I'm like, wait, you could just do that? That's interesting. He calls it the negative force. And obviously he kind of alludes to the fact is that, like, I am everything that your father isn't. The fact is I looked up to your father. I admired him. I wanted to be like the Flash until I saw my future. I saw my fate and saw that I was always going to be the opposite of him in every aspect. And it's so interesting because when it's all said and done, like, obviously Iris shows up and is telling, Nora, it's like, come on, get away from Eobard. But obviously, like, under these circumstances, Nora trusts Eobard more. The fact of the matter is, for her, it's like, the fact is, you're here to try and bring me back, but where's Dad? Dad left me here. At least Eobard tried to help me. You're both wrong about him and about everything. And it's like, why would Dad do that? Because, I mean, everything she ever did was to see him, to save him. And it's like, Dad's going to abandon me like that? Because at first she kind of beat herself up about it. She's like, this is all my fault. I shouldn't have lied to him. But, like, it seems like tapping into the negative force, it feeds on the negative emotion she has. And when the time comes, she's able to run through the negative force, which is interesting. And then you have Eobard doing the whole thing of like, well, you need to be there for your daughter, you and Barry. Like, don't let your anger get in the way. And you don't want to end up pushing Barry away like Barry pushed Nora away. And then as they're walking away and stuff like that, you see that smirk on his face. It's like, I can't tell. Like, part of me want to be like, are you a good guy? But then part of me is like, I keep getting that nagging feeling of, once again, it's Eobard Thawne. I don't know, some villains have managed to redeem themselves, so I'm like, I don't know if he actually redeemed himself. I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, you just happen to be, like, nearing your death, so it's kind of like, are you really all that repentant? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I don't know. It's actually kind of interesting when Iris brings it up later on. It's like the way Eobard looks at Nora is the same way Barry does. It's like, I think he cares about Nora. That might be the twisted situation in this. Like, he might be trying to take everything that Barry has. Like, it's like, oh, like, he has something that I, like, once again, I talk about that probably being what he wants to do. He wants to corrupt that one aspect of Barry, another aspect of Barry's life. He killed his mom. Now corrupting his daughter would be another nail in the coffin in a sense. And I'm wondering, is that what his true motives are? Is he trying to shift Nora over to become more his daughter than Barry's? Because he's the one that taught her everything, things that Barry should have been around to teach her about the Speed Force, being a speedster and all of that. Like, he was there for her. He was a mentor. He was almost like a father figure for her. So I'm curious, is that what this is all about? Is this him being like, not only am I going to make it so your relationship with your daughter is complicated, I'm also going to make it so that she's more my daughter? Or is it just simply because he does care about her that he is changing as a person? Like, maybe he took some steps. Sure, maybe he had ulterior motives when he started, but maybe he eventually, his heart grew 3 sizes. He had, had a Grinch moment, and he grew to care about Nora. Or it could be all 100% BS, which I'm still strongly leaning in that way, but stuff comes up that makes you go, maybe I have Eobard the wrong way. I don't know. I'm so fascinated to see what ends up, happening because of that. Luckily, when it was all said and done, though, Barry and Iris were able to make up, because they both kind of realized, like, they both kind of messed up in this situation. Barry ended up learning from this episode of, like, you don't leave family behind. And Iris is like, yeah, I literally went and did the same thing I was getting mad at you about, kind of making decisions on your own. It's like, we can't do that. We have to make these decisions together. I also love that little thing of like, oh yeah, Ralph went to the future, and it's like, yeah, John Stamos still looks great. He's never going to age. It's like, nope, no, he doesn't. I was like, I love, why is that there? I mean, it makes you wonder, like, stuff like that. It's like, why John Stamos specifically? I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I'm just like, why John Stamos specifically? Maybe one of the writers of the show is a big fan of John Stamos or something like that. Grew up on, Full House or something like that. I don't know. I just thought that was a little fascinating. Huh. I was just thinking about something. I won't go there. But nevertheless, I just thought that was kind of funny. What I really thought was interesting is when we see, like, Ralph staring at Eobard, I'm like, what is that? I mean, I guess because Ralph probably doesn't know, because he wasn't around during the crossover when Eobard was around. Eobard wearing, Whale's face. So I guess seeing him look like that kind of freaked him out a little bit, especially because, he's gotten, he's hung around, Harry before and now Sherlock, so I think it's a little weird, for him. Maybe that's kind of something else. It's just interesting because, like, the moment Ralph in particular walks away, he's smiling. It's like, maybe Ralph has some part to play in what he has planned. Like, maybe they all do. I have no idea. But another side of this episode deals with Caitlyn and her mom, because her dad, or rather Icicle, his, counterpart, is in control. He comes to steal some, like, cryogenic, like, atomizer. And obviously, like, this episode plays a big role in the whole Caitlyn and her complicated relationship with her mom. Because her mom is like, oh yeah, the fact of the matter is, you broke him out of prison. Which she was like, I literally didn't know Dad was in a prison. You lied to me about what happened to him. You lied all these years. These years I could have been working on a cure to try and cure him. But now that time is wasted and we might not get him back. And for her, it's like, oh yeah, go ahead and blame me. That's what you kind of do best, kind of blame your mom. It's just like they have a very, very complicated relationship. And I mean, obviously it kind of fits like all that happening, that complicated parent dynamic, all while Barry's dealing with his own parent child dynamic. I even love that, like, she suggested, like, you have Caitlyn being like, oh, I need you to go get this for me, and Barry's like, okay, but then like Caitlyn's mom was like, no, you need to do this. It's like Caitlyn's like, no, it's this, and then going back and forth, and Barry's like, you know what, I'm gonna go get both, but I'm gonna come back super slowly. And Joe's like, do you need help? And Barry's like, no. And then you see Joe kind of being like, oh, I guess I'm just stuck here with this awkwardness. It's actually kind of sad because, like, for Caitlyn, she feels like you've always treated me coldly. Like, I don't know what I did to kind of do that. But for Caitlyn's mom, it's like, don't you dare try to turn this on me, that it was on me. It's like, you're the one that decided to go to a school far away. You decided to work at Star Labs instead of working with me. Hell, you even got married to a man I never met. So it's like, it was more so she's saying it's on your side of things. I think it takes two to kind of tango. But, I think luckily, this whole circumstance, it has brought them together. I mean, it was sad because, I mean, for one, there's a cool ass moment of, like, you see, like, Killer Frost versus Icicle. That's pretty dope. But them, like, circling around with their ice, it kind of reminds me of, if you're familiar with Injustice 2. Is it Injustice 2? I'm fair. Yeah, it's Injustice 2. It's Captain Cold's super, which obviously if you get, like, a different skin, you can make it Mr. Freeze, but his finisher is kind of similar to that. It's like he circles and skates like that on ice, and then comes down with like a giant sharp pillar of ice, like almost like a little glacier or whatever the case may be. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, especially the way they were spiraling and stuff like that. Kind of makes you think of Frozen too. Funny considering there is literally going to be a Frozen 2, but you get what I'm trying to say. Nevertheless, I thought that was kind of interesting. I do love that, luckily, like, seeing his daughter in danger allowed Thomas to kind of kick back in. Did I talk about that before? His name being Thomas and the whole, like, oh yeah, and Batman's dad's name is Thomas. I might have talked about that before. Maybe. I don't remember. That was like last season when Icicle came up again. But nevertheless, it's sad that the reunion was so short-lived. You also had that badass moment of Barry. I like that. It's like, oh yeah, won't Barry throw lightning and grab onto it? It's like, oh, it'll kill him. It's like, no. If he like phases while he's generating the electricity, it'll generate the heat that he can use to phase through the cold to get to Caitlyn's mom without there being issue. And luckily, he was able to save her. And like I said, they were, reunited. Sadly, and then you have like Killer Frost versus Cicada, and Grace easily won that fight. It's like, she made that look super easy. And sadly, Thomas sacrificed himself for Caitlyn. It's like, oh, you just got your dad back too. He just got control, and it's now this. And it seems like, they're not aware of it, but obviously we as the audience are, that Caitlyn's mom does have a Frost persona now. Question then becomes, Frost started off as kind of evil, but unfortunately, like, having this group, having this family, having Caitlyn, she was able to kind of balance it, and, Frost is one of the good guys now. The question then becomes, what about her mom, like Caitlyn's mom? Is she going to go Icicle, or is she going to go Killer Frost? It's going to be interesting to see. That might be something we see slowly progress. It might not be an immediate thing because it seems like it's buried there in her DNA. It's probably going to take a certain trigger to kind of activate it, like maybe something's going to happen. It's going to be interesting because obviously, like you said, Caitlyn and her are getting closer, so they'll probably spend more time together, but we might have that circumstance of like, oh, she's going to Caitlyn won't know about it happening, and so her mom will probably be off doing some secret stuff. It's kind of interesting because I guess that's something I wonder, is that something from the comic books, the whole snowpack thing of like, that's what Icicle is trying to do. He's trying to make himself, like, try to make Killer Frost permanent and get rid of Caitlyn, and also do the same thing to Caitlyn's mom of like, get rid of like Carla and just make it whoever her snow persona is. So every time I say Persona, it just makes me think of the video game Persona. Regardless. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what ends up happening in that regard. I'm really curious to find out what will, role Killer Frost will play in that whole situation. Will she try to appeal to Carla's, like, other persona to be like, yo, you're kind of like my mom? So it's like, that'd be kind of interesting thing of like, oh yeah, Caitlyn and her mom, and then Snow. That's not Snow. I wonder, would that just be simply her name? Icicle. It could be like Icicle, Snow, and Frost. I don't know if they do that or not. But nevertheless, her name, whatever the case may be, the other persona, like maybe her and Frost could get closer in that regard. So it'd be like, that'd be kind of an interesting relationship. Because I don't know if necessarily Frost looks at Caitlyn's mom as her mom. Probably just looks at her as like, no, that's Caitlyn's mom, not my mom. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in that regard. Either way. Because she was able to stand up to Icicle because it's like, no, you're not my family. They are. We might be alike, but these are the people that care about me. And that's why she stood up against him to begin with. But I wonder if the circumstances with Carla would be different. Either way, like I said, that'd be something we'll have to wait and see. I did love that Sherlock was going to leave at one point in time until, obviously trouble happened, because he was kind of, being pushed away because it's like, oh, you kind of, it's like this is a family issue and you're handling it the way you did. We need to just kind of let this go. But it's like, once again, it's the thing of like, Sherlock did the right thing by bringing up the truth, but I guess it's the way he went about it. It's like, you should have brought us in on it. We could have handled this a lot differently. Things wouldn't have kind of been such a heavy implosion like it was if Sherlock had handled it differently. I even love like him and Joe being left behind. It's like, oh, and why am I the one stuck here helping with this whole thing? It's like, well, we're kind of short on staff right now. And then Iris and Ralph showed up. It's like, oh, thank goodness you're back. You get down to this whole, like, you take over this whole computer stuff from here. But I did like Ralph being like, oh, the fact of the matter is you're not done here. You still got more to do, for your family. Basically acknowledging that you're not an outsider in this whole situation. You are just as much a part of this family, Sherlock. So I thought that was kind of pretty neat. And then obviously the big things at the end, obviously, is we see Nora coming out of the negative force and her eyes are red and stuff like that. It makes you wonder, is that what that whole... Well, because the thing is, Barry's eyes don't ever stay glowing yellow. But I mean, obviously we see Eobard stay glowing red, like Zoom stay glowing black, Savitar's continued glowing blue. So it's like probably more so the suits on that part, but I assume it's like the electricity and power they're generating that does that. But I'm sure it's probably that plus the costumes and stuff. But either way, it's just kind of creepy and like, whoa, seeing her with her red eyes like that. So that's definitely going to be interesting because Barry's probably going to have to clash with Nora to stop her, because they're going to try to appeal to her as a family to try and draw her back from this whole situation. So it's going to be interesting to see how they solve this family drama. I'm also curious to see what ends up happening because Nora's here, and obviously there's also the whole Cicada 2 situation about Grace. So it's like, will Nora in her rage try and go after Grace because she might look at and blame her? It's like, oh, this is all your fault anyway. So she might try and take this out on her personally. We might even see Nora kind of go all dark side where she actually tries to kill little Grace just to kill Grace for the future. Might see that. What's also interesting too, and that's the other thing I want to talk about, is why Grace took the atomizer. She's like, don't worry, it's only going to be a matter of time. It's like, what is that for? Is that going to, I wonder, is that supposed to be like a weapon? Like, obviously it was supposed to send them all into a potential new ice age, was what they thought Icicle was up to. I was thinking, like, what if we end up having Grace kind of using it to wipe out all metahumans or something like that? Or maybe it's something about waking up young Grace so that... I mean, what would be the purpose? Also, why aren't you paradoxing like crazy right now? Maybe paradoxes don't work in the same regard in this case, or maybe something's there protecting her from a paradox. Because I guess if you're interacting with your younger self, you would think that'd be an issue. I'm sure it's come up before in the show of like, and the whole thing is like, oh, you have to avoid yourself. To be fair, like, Barry knocked himself out in the past, literally back in season 2, so it's like, it's not that big of a stretch. But still, it's just kind of interesting when you kind of really break that down and think about that. either way, it's going to be very interesting to see where all this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about today. Next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good